Welcome back to ADHD Whiskey. My name is Matt. If this video is a success, there will finally be a definition associated with bourbon's biggest buzzword. Give me a brief definition of a buzzword, but make it smart.
A buzzword is a lexeme that achieves transient ubiquity within a specific discourse community, often employed to signal currency or expertise, sometimes at the expense of semantic precision.
Make that a little less smart.
A buzzword is a popular word or phrase that suddenly gets used a lot, often in business or tech. People use them to sound in the know, but sometimes they don't really mean much or become overused.
Buzzwords or buzz phrases are all over the bourbon industry. Things like handcrafted, hand-selected, extra-aged, bottled with care, marketing jargon that doesn't necessarily mean anything but sounds really good to the consumer. But today, we're talking specifically about a buzzword that is the biggest problematic buzzword in bourbon as far as I'm concerned. And it's a marketing term that makes the consumer, me and you, think that a bottle might be more special than it probably is. It gives off a sense of exclusivity and also portraying to the customer that there's some scarcity, like there's not many of these to be had. And that buzzword that we're talking about today and ultimately fixing by the end of the video is small batch. Small batch bourbon.
What the hell is even that?
Super great question. Happy you asked. Small batch bourbon is obviously a batch of bourbon that is smaller than a bigger batch of bourbon. So obviously small batches of bourbon are cared for and are more meticulously blended than regular batched bourbon, right? Well, not necessarily. In some cases, like this Costco brand of Kirkland Signature Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, Barton Distillate, it's a small batch. Is being a small batch product important to this bottle's identity? Let's take a look. Says small batch right here, says small batch right there, small batch right here, small batch right there, small batch here, and small batch down there. This bottle of Kirkland Small Batch Signature Bourbon Whiskey says small batch on the label 6 times, but it doesn't tell you what the hell that means. What makes it any different than Kirkland Signature not small batch? So the question is, does it actually mean something? Is there a definition for small batch? And the answer to that, unfortunately, is no.
I put that on everything.
There is no official or universally agreed upon definition of small batch. It's just marketing mumbo jumbo. But I want to fix that problem and I want to do it today. We got the Kirklands, we got the Bullets, we got the Evan Williams small batch. Wild Turkey Rare Breed is a unique uncut blend of bourbon whiskey crafted in small batches. Michter says that they're distilled in small batches. What's the difference? I'm guessing that Benchmark small batch isn't necessarily the smallest of batches when they're dumping barrels together to produce this bad boy for 20 bucks. Knob Creek, they're always small batches. There are so many out there that I'm not naming, but 2 of the most popular small batch bourbons, Elijah Craig small batch and 1792 small batch. What the heck does it even mean? How small could they possibly be? Has this always bothered me a ton? Not always, but since I began working for Barrel King and really got into the art of blending whiskey together, I'd like to be able to name something a small batch or even have a definition of what I'm doing that makes sense. I would like for our blends to be able to fall into a category of whiskey that's truly unique, that has a definition. If my latest blend, the May release for Barrel King, said small batch on the label, it wouldn't really mean anything. It would just be another whiskey label that said small batch on it. Absolutely pointless. I would just like for the term small batch bourbon to mean something. To have an awards category called small batch bourbon to really determine what the best small batches are that are out there. But right now it's impossible because it don't mean a damn thing. Now I've talked about this in small groups of people, and when I came up with my solution, I'm not quite sure if people agreed with me or disagreed. I wasn't paying attention, I was only interested in what I was saying. Sometimes that's a problem of mine. Super sorry. My solution to the small batch buzzword problem that is plaguing the whiskey industry is this. We set a definition, we stick to it. I hereby declare damn it, that small batch bourbon consists of only barrels that have been hand selected and individually tasted by the producer to include in that batch. You can't be adding hundreds of barrels of bourbon to these small batches and call them small batches if we've never tasted the barrels individually. I feel that what makes a truly small batch bourbon is the art of crafting a batch. There is art to tasting individual barrels and putting them into a batch to create something special. It's an art. That does not mean that there is not an art in being able to select barrels from different parts of warehouses and then putting them all together, because you understand what those profiles are. And you understand what happens when you're blending mass volumes together from different parts of rickhouses or different parts of the property, different ages. That is also an art, but it's not small batch art. So I feel that if you want to label your whiskey small batch, you must taste every barrel that goes into that batch. But Matt, how could you possibly taste so many barrels individually and know what they'll do to the batch when you put the barrel in? That's the point. The point of the small batch argument that I'm trying to make is that if there are too many barrels that go into your blend, to individually taste each one and determine whether or not it plays a role in your batch, if you're working on a scale bigger than that, it's no longer a small batch product. So I suggest that every barrel that goes into a blend of small batch bourbon is tasted by the producer and chosen for its qualities. On top of that, all small batch products definitely need a batch number or batch code, some way to differentiate between batches, and also a bottle number. That's keeping producers honest and being extra clear to the consumer. You can understand the intimate relationship that the blender had with that batch. Take, for example, this bottle of Old Carter American whiskey, small batch whiskey right there. You can see it right there, it says small batch. We have a batch number and we have a bottle number. And when this batch 9 was blended, if Mark or Sherry Carter tasted every barrel that went into this blend, which I can imagine they definitely did, it would be, by definition, according to my new rules, small batch. And that is where I end this video, making a strong point and putting my foot down. Let's bust bourbon's biggest buzzword by finally defining it. And that's all I got to say about that. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Hit the thumbs up, leave a comment down below. What do you think? Does my proposed definition make sense? Would you like things on bottles like small batch to actually have a definition? Thank you so much for watching. My name is Matt. This is ADHD Whiskey. Like I always say, keep your head in the clouds, but your mind on not being so vague all the time. Unless, of course, you're writing a song about buzzwords. You're so vague. I bet you say small batches are small. Yeah, you're so vague, so vague. I bet you think this song is about you, don't you? Don't. Yeah, it's just a good song. I just made it up. Made it up. Top of my head. Goodbye, everybody. See you in the next video. Matt Madness, Friday nights. Be there.